guys, welcome to Body Successful. I'm Dr. K. In today's video, we're going to cover some techniques that you can utilize in your weight loss journey to make your weight loss journey more effective. Now, I want to get something out of the way first. And some of you have been following my channel and you are going to know the answer to this. In order to lose weight and be good at it, you have to be eating in a caloric deficit on a regular basis. And that's kind of the cardinal rule of weight loss. And hopefully you understand it. You still have to do that. However, doing that in conjunction with these techniques that I'm going to go over in today's video, hopefully these techniques are going to make your weight loss journey a little bit more effective. All right, good, I got that out of the way. So let's get started. So back in time when food storage was not available, in other words, there was no refrigeration, no grains available, humans went through periods of feast and famine for consecutively and on a regular basis, basically. You know, when the picking was slim, the seasons were changing, basically humans had to make do without, and they did just that. I mean, let's point out the obvious. If that was not possible and they could not function efficiently while they were fasting, then we would not be here today recording this video. We as a human species did not go extinct, we survived and evolved. In other words, our body is wired and it is basically designed to have metabolic flexibility. What that means is when you have plenty of food, the body's primary source of energy is sugar. And when you are fasting, when food is not available, the body will switch over to a different form of energy, which is fat. All right. So we need to stop forcing our body to do what it is not ready to do from an evolutionary standpoint, right? We were not wired to graze all day long, to eat from morning to evening, right? Moreover, I'm going to actually argue that the 3 square meals, and for some of you actually snacking in between, is nothing but an arbitrary cultural artifact, and it is not biologically necessary, okay? Because now we understand that we have been fasting for so many years, since the beginning of man, but now how do we translate this into fat loss and fat gain? Fat gain. Well, intermittent fasting is basically a tool. It's not a diet, and the name basically defines it. What it is you go through periods when you're eating and periods when you're not eating. All it is you're still eating your allocated amount of calories that you were going to eat, but you're going to eat them in a restricted window of time. In other words, instead of eating all day long, you're going to, from morning to evening, from the time you wake up till you go to bed, you're going to be restricting that window to a lot less, all right? Now, according to science, there are many reasons why people would fast. The 3 main reasons are, obviously, fat loss, today's topic. Number 2 is for health reasons. And number 3, and longevity, number 3 is for building lean muscle mass. And depending on the purpose of your fast, you're going to change this in terms of timing and how you break your fast and what you're eating slightly in order to optimize the reason why you're fasting and what you get out of it. And for today's video, where I'm going to be obviously focusing on fat loss, and I'm not going to be going into much detail about other health benefits of fasting. I have done other videos on that, and I'm going to be linking them in the box below. If you're interested, you can check it out. So, you are fasting for fat loss purposes. What you want to be doing is restricting your eating window to 8 hours and maximum. In other words, you're going to be fasting for a minimum of 16 hours, and you're going to break your fast somewhere, anytime from that 16-hour window up to 48 hours. You don't want to be fasting beyond 48 hours because the fat loss benefits of fasting are going to taper off afterwards, and other benefits kick in, such as autophagy, for example, which is, by the way, a really exciting topic that is going around in the research world, and it has to do with this the ability of our body to basically sweep through and eat its old damaged cells or cell particles and use that up for either energy or to create new cells. And so this process of autophagy defines our aging process. In other words, the more autophagy you have, the slower your aging process will be. So there are a lot of people in the world who fast for extended periods of time. For example, autophagy kicks in approximately 48 hours post starting your fast, and and it amplifies the longer you go. So a lot of people fast for just that purpose, for longevity and health reasons. But for the purposes of today's video, I don't want to go off on a tangent. We are going to focus only on the fat loss aspect. As a result, everything I mentioned to you today is going to be for those of you who are fasting only for fat loss purposes. So if you're fasting for fat loss purposes, you want to fast for a minimum of 16 hours and not go over 36, 48 hours. Beyond that, it's not going to have more effects than before. You want to break your fast. Now, how Before I go on though, I want you to understand something about how fat loss and fat gain dynamics is in the body. And we understand that the laws of thermodynamics apply when it comes to fat loss. However, the reason we are not so successful, most of us, at accomplishing that is because we think of calories the wrong way. See, not all calories are created equal. In other words, just because you eat, not all calories go in just one common pot. These calories are going to be diverted in different compartments. One compartment is comprised of your sugars, which are going to be stored in the body, in your muscles, in your liver, in form of glycogen. Another box is going to be your fat cells. In your fat cells, you're going to be storing fat, and that's another form of energy. You're in form of triglycerides. Now, here's the pickle. Your glycogen box is small, but it's very easily accessible. In other words, your body is constantly trying to go to the glycogen store, to the sugar store for energy source, okay? And the fat box is really large in its energy potential. However, it's super difficult to unlock. In order to unlock this fat box, two things have to be present in the body simultaneously. Number one, your glycogen stores have to be completely depleted. And number two, your insulin level has to be at a minimum. It turns out fasting does just that. It preps the body for these two things. It'll deplete your glycogen stores because you're not having food come in, and it'll decrease your insulin levels because there's no food coming in. In other words, every time you eat, you know that the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is the gatekeeper, is a storing hormone in the body, and it is going to determine in which box do the calories go, right? So every time you eat, insulin gets released, and it's going to basically saturate your glycogen stores. So in everything, when you're eating, and even if you're eating a very little amount, but for as long as you're eating, you're supplying the bloodstream with small amounts of insulin, which in turn is going to supply your glycogen stores in small amounts. As a result, frequent eating never will allow the body to actually unlock and access the fat box. And this is the reason why, that you can go hungry for hours and then eat a little bit, and that is going to saturate your glycogen stores, and the body will reach quickly for it for energy source, but it is not enough to actually kick you into a fat storing mode, a fat burning mode, and unlock your fat stores. So the bottom line is also other things happen when you're fasting. Not only it depletes the glycogen, right, from your muscles and liver and reduces your insulin levels, basically kicking you into a fat burning mode, but some other hormones get released, such as growth hormone. Growth hormone is really important in building lean muscle mass and, of course, maintaining it, as well as a result, burning significantly more amount of fat. So definitely fasting will prep the body for unlocking. It does really nothing more than preps the body into unlocking your fat stores, so the body can reach for the fat stores for energy source and burn that up instead of constantly grazing into your glycogen stores. Now, most people fast for fat loss purposes looks like this. Most people will finish with dinner and then they go to bed and wake up, skip breakfast, and they don't eat all the way until lunchtime, and they continue eating from noon on until 8 p.m. and then they repeat. This will give you a 16-hour fasting window when you're not eating. So if you think about it, it's not that difficult to do. Most people start out with this 16-8 split, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, and if you're interested, you can push that out slowly when you feel comfortable with the 16-8 split. You can push it out a few hours longer. Some people are successful in fasting for 24 hours successfully, and they reap obviously tremendous benefits from it. Now, there are some recommendations that I have for you, and these recommendations, again, are very important that you remember that they're only for people who are fasting for fat loss purposes. So number one, you want to make sure that you are not consuming any calories while you're fasting, however little, because it can break your fast. For example, you cannot use creamer in your coffee, or you cannot use sugar in your coffee when you're drinking it. Coffee is okay. Coffee actually is really beneficial because the polyphenols and the caffeine in the coffee are going to accelerate that autophagy, are going to stimulate the autophagy to start happening sooner. So remember, we talked about autophagy, how important that is for longevity. So again, caffeine is very good. Coffee is very good because of the polyphenols and the caffeine, but you have to drink it black. Number two, you want to be sipping on green tea. Green tea is so beneficial for so many reasons, but for these purposes, it increases your epinephrine, norepinephrine, which in turn is going to amp up your fat burning function in the body. Number three, you want to make sure that you avoid certain supplements. A lot of times people will reach for, their fish oil or whatever vitamins and minerals they're taking. You want to be sensitive to that because it can kick you out of your fasting. You want to refrain to that feeding window when you're consuming these things. Basically, I'm talking about soft gel caps like, your fish oils, your omega fatty acids, your vitamin E. You want to refrain from antioxidants like your vitamin C, your vitamin E, because antioxidants are going to reduce the stress response in the body. And fasting basically is a stress response. We want that for the body. That's what's going to, the repair process afterwards is what's causing the benefits of fasting, right? So every time you add antioxidants, you're going to diminish that stress response in the body. So you want to be taking your antioxidants during your feeding window, not while you are fasting. Number four, you want to make sure that you are not fasting on a regular basis, like back to back every day, because eventually your metabolism is going to slow down. So it's kind of a fine teeter-totter. You want to make sure that you are fasting one day and giving yourself a break, and then fasting the next day and giving yourself a break. Because on a fasted day, if you do it over a long period of time, and you're not looking at one day, but you're looking at weeks and weeks on end, you're going to realize that you're going to be eating overall less because your window has decreased. So you have to consume the same amount of calories in less period of time. And so eventually you're going to eat less. As a result, your metabolism can decrease, and you don't want that. Number five rather, you want to make sure that you re-add salt into your diet, because whenever you're fasting, you're losing a lot of minerals. So you can add a little bit of salt into your coffee. There's nothing wrong with that. Or whenever you're eating, you want to be sensitive to adding more salt. Now, breaking the fast. Breaking the fast is really important, how you break your fast, because it can make or break the deal here. Breaking your fast should be done with a very small meal first, or more like a snack, and waiting maybe an hour and then having your full meal. Because at the end of your fast, you are very insulin sensitive. So you're more likely to absorb absolutely everything you put in the body. As a result, you want to prep the body and you want to curb that insulin response first before you bring in the full meal. Also, you want to make sure that the quality of the breaking of that fast is important. So you don't want to be eating like a sugar and a fat together, because again, your insulin response is going to be spiking. So everything will go back into storage. So don't break your fast with a sugar and a fat together. Like, let's say a small bowl of ice cream, that would be not a good thing to do. In fact, if you are fasting for fat loss purposes, again, just for fat loss purposes, the ideal thing to do is to break your fast with some MCT oil. Take a tablespoon of MCT oil. MCT oil is medium chain triglycerides, and it is a derivative of coconut oil. You can buy it in a bottle, and it's in a liquid form. It looks like this. Basically, this is the brand just I happen to be using. But the bottom line is that the caprylic, caproic, and capric acid in it, these medium chain triglycerides, basically bypass the liver, and they're going to be utilized very quickly for energy. So it is very beneficial for the body, and it kind of preps the body to look for these type of energy source. In other words, it preps the body to look for fat for energy source. So it is really beneficial to break it that way, and then you wait a little bit, and then you can have your full meal. So there you have it, guys. The way you want to break up this window, it's completely up to you how you want to do the fasting. It has to fit in your schedule. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, you're not going to be consistent and doing it on a regular basis. If you have any questions or comments, please comment in the description box below. Like I said, I'm going to link some other videos that are related to this topic in more detail. And thanks for tuning in as usual. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so I can reach more people on this platform. This is Dr. K, all the way.